r/antiwork. Donald Wilkelusall says, billionaire family took away their passports and paid employees for an 18H job less than for the food of their own dog. Included photo. Maleficent Pickle 264 says, you know it would have been cheaper to pay the servants what they actually deserved and not take their passports instead of going to court. Donald Wilkelusall says, you know, I don't think it was about money. Was more about power and cruelty in Ho. Super Deep Borehole says, would be interesting if one of the servants became insubordinate. Direction of Viral 9709 says, billionaires didn't become billionaires by paying wages. Useless Oldfit says, the headline still referred to the workers as servants. Freakichi says, also exploited when they were actually enslaved. Person Dude 27 says, surely withholding passports crosses into human trafficking territory. Sweaty Assignment 90 says, why is it the richer you are, the more likely you are just a stingy prick? Pittsburgh says, you don't get to be rich by being a good person. Punty Chan says, having been around such people, it's because they think of almost everything as a zero-sum game and believe that everyone is an enemy to some extent. So, why enrich your enemies at your own expense? That's stupid. Be stingy. For example, don't even tip unless you're getting sex or favors for it afterwards. Make a mess and destroy things if you feel like it. You're doing the peasants a favor by giving them something to do. Break laws. Most people in your billionaire circle get away with it anyway. Who cares if someone else gets hurt? You get pleasure and don't feel their pain. And so on and so on. Cipiril says, greed is killing the world. One day the proletariat will rise up and banish this system that makes it possible. Any which way but Lowe's says, we are too apathetic and distracted nowadays. r/antiwork. Absinthe Dartichoke says, it's not quitting without notice. It's firing the employer. Let's normalize this cognitive shift. If we reframe employment relationships as a part of an implied social contract in which the employee is providing labor services in exchange for wages and intangibles, and those wages and intangible fail to meet the basic needs of the employee, then the employer is in breach of said social contract and exposes themselves to being let go by the employee and boycotted by the community. Honeybaja 302 says, so long as employers keep up the practice of firing us, which can cause serious wreckage on people's lives, with no notice, I have no issues with employees giving no notice. That said, I will generally try to give notice, just because I don't want to burn bridges with individuals I've been working with, but it's not some obligation to the company I feel they are owed. More because I've had to go back to old bosses and coworkers to verify things for stuff like a professional certification and such, so easiest if those bridges weren't burned on your way out. Liberated Lama says, where I live, the legal minimum notice is 1 day per month worked, or 1 calendar month, if more than a year employment. Both ways, it never made sense to me that user employers expect 2 weeks notice, but fire employees immediately. WTF. How does that make sense? Honeybaja 302 says, it's their way to squeeze the last bit out of someone and just proves that they don't care about their employees. Some get nice severance packages, but I would dare say most don't get enough to really carry them through, if any. Wandering Brainsel says, I told an Aldi hiring manager that they disqualified themselves from being my potential employer. They were being petty over some bullshit qualification they wanted me to pay for, and she sputtered and told me that's not how it works. Haha, gave me a chuckle. Hiloi Hick says, it's firing the employer. Let's normalize this cognitive shift. Absolutely. We are taking our labor elsewhere. Catch Me Falcon09 says, we require XX notice. It's unprofessional. I gave notice, effective immediately. I'm not quitting. I'm firing you. Unfortunately this isn't working out, and we are just not a great fit. Billionaire says, I was amazed to see the above power dynamic in person. Was stationed in Germany, and these interactions between the German union workers was quite the experience for this brainwashed in the American style guy. Having the employee/boss power dynamic be on a more equal footing was refreshing to see, and something that is long overdue in America. Away Location says, we should start rephrasing it so that it sounds like we are doing them a favor by quitting. Same way they make it sound like Pips, RTO, and PIS are there to help you. They were having obvious budget and financial issues, so I took immediate action and helped them out by removing myself from the budget. Based on abysmal raises, I assumed they didn't want to keep me. I'm confused why they are so upset. r/antiwork. Cat Hurting says, no one wants emails, just phone calls. How would y'all deal with having a manager and a new supervisor who hates emails? They want every conversation to be in person or via phone call. Which, bearing my own memory issues, I don't have a problem with in general. However, I have found myself multiple times where my manager tells me to do something, so I do it, and then I get criticized for that manager for doing it the way they told me, and they're rude when I try to point out they told me to do it that way. Egg. 1. I send my work to him for review via email too. He says he's too busy, so stop sending them things and hold on to them until closer to due date. 3. I got told I need to not delay services for customers by holding on to things. 4. I submit my work and follow up in person. 5. He tells me I don't know what to tell you, I'm busy, and refuses to allow me to send it to anyone else for review. 6. I send reminders via email that something is due, no response. 7. It's my fault a deadline was missed, even though I sent it in on the time frame he wanted and provided reminders. 8. He tells me to call and light a fire if I need something reviewed. 9. I have deadlines, so I call, and he tells me don't call me/bother me with reminders and hangs up the phone on me. Now my new supervisor is telling me I need to stop emailing requests in and do it via in-person or phone call. I told him straight up no, I need everything in writing to cover myself because I'm constantly getting conflicting information. He said that's why there are issues in this office, emails, and walked away. My therapist said the only reason why they'd have issue with emails was because they're trying to hide their own bad behavior/work/practices. Doing says, they want this so they can avoid accountability and liability. Your therapist is 1000% right. Helen Themden says, I've worked with, under, with, and above, been contracted by, and seen this coping mechanism mostly from ineffective and just terrible managers. Can't nail someone down that refuses to be accountable. It's also a good indicator that these people are saying negative things about their team. Abiranda Book says, if you care about the job, do the phone call and then follow up with a recap of the main points and action items. Be thorough but professional and polite. The boss gets their phone time and op gets to sire, so boss can't forget the discussion. Lock All True 9623 says, continue to email everyone. Make sure you CC their supervisor when you send the last few urgent reminders. And if necessary, print out their responses to emails sent with time. Irish Valley says, gaslighting is more difficult by email. Hypersion 1980 says, add on other managers. Last job I had to CC 2 VPs and a president to get people to read emails. Cactustrophe says, have you considered submitting your work and not following up? Action Oyan says, record the phone conversation and email a written follow-up with the list of action items to confirm in writing. Takes more time, but may cover you up if things go south. Techrumbling says, my therapist said the only reason why they'd have issue with emails was because they are trying to hide their own bad behavior /work /practices. Nail, meathead. Brightenbless says, email them to touch base after anything. And he calls you to say do X, Y, and Z, and wants them in Arial size 11? Email him after, and be like, hey, just following up, I've got X done already. I'll start working on Y and Z next, and make sure they are all in Arial size 11 like you asked. Now if he's like, why aren't these in Calibri size 12? You can reference the email. He tells you to call him instead? Awesome, call him, then email the follow-up as well. Too busy to review it? That's fine, email it to him with your current thoughts for next steps, and something like, if you do get time to review, I'd appreciate feedback, otherwise I'll keep on this path. That's all for this video, thank you for watching, please subscribe.